Ambassador Young, it is such an honor to sit down and talk with you. Thank you so much. First, let me ask you, how are you feeling? I know you were in the hospital not too long ago. How are you health-wise?
I think I'm all right. In fact, they ran me to the hospital right quick, but they couldn't find anything wrong. It's a funny thing. A friend of mine was upset about the election and all, and I was trying to calm him down. But I realized in the sentence that I said to calm him down, it was totally irrational. And I don't know what I was trying to say, but I said, Carolyn, and called my wife and told her what happened. And she immediately called the doctor, and they got me down to Grady.
Oh, so nothing was wrong. They just thought you were maybe acting a little.
Well, no, there is a name for it, but it's not a stroke. It's a temporary 20, 30 second something. I didn't make sense, and it probably could happen now, but
you feel okay?
I feel fine. And I've made a couple of speeches since then, and made a trip. It's part of growing old.
Yeah, and you're working on you're staying busy. You're working on a documentary type film, right?
Well, I'm working on a little everything, and we're really trying to keep the ministry I've had through our foundation and through the mayor's office and through the Olympics and through all of the things I've been doing from the early days of the civil rights movement back to my country church down in Beachton and Thomasville, Georgia. It's just, I've stayed very, very busy.
Yeah, you have. We are celebrating Black History Month, and you certainly are Black history. You've done so much, including working hand in hand with Dr. King. You helped write the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And here we are some 60 years later, and some would say we are seeing an undoing of some of the work from you and other leaders with the rollback and halting of DEI. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm not sure, because we're talking about different worlds. The president and his friend from South Africa almost seem to have a South African view of people one against the other. And Atlanta, I think, has demonstrated, maybe better than any other city in the world, that we do better together. That I remember when the first woman contractor got a city contract with the airport. She was on welfare. She was a graduate of Georgia Tech, and but her husband left her. She was on welfare in the project, and yet she had a degree from Georgia Tech, and we gave her a contract to pave the airport. And no white women or black women had any city contracts before then, and she became a millionaire.
But do you worry though? Do you worry
about?
I don't worry,
because well, I grew up with Martin Luther King, and he said to us over and over again, "Truth crushed to earth will rise again. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, for behind the dim unknown standeth God, within the shadows keeping watch above his own." And that's good enough for me.
So with all of this happening in Washington from some of the...
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. There's a lot of talk. See, none of these tariffs. The first bill I did in Congress was to cancel a tariff on things to make shirts wash and wear. a chemical, and it wasn't made in the United States. And there was no reason why you had to put a tariff on it to bring it in. You were just making people pay more. And now we have the same thing with the drugstores and the grocery stores.
But are you concerned, though, when you see some of the policies, when you see the immigration policies, when you see civil rights investigations being halted?
Actually, that's the thing. I don't see that. Now, I see news reports of that, but actually, President Obama sent more people back, and President Biden sent more people back, illegal aliens back, than President Trump did in the 4 years he was president. And so I don't know what kind of games they're playing and who they're playing them with, but I trust this democracy. I trust the American people. And I think it's going to take us a little time to adjust. And that adjustment goes both ways.
What concerns you the most, though?
The thing that concerns me the most is that I didn't take the 2025 book seriously. But we should have been more prepared for what we have heard the last 4 years. We really didn't know how people were taking this. And we really don't know what was motivating the American people. You see, this is half. It's almost 50-50. There's this very slight difference between winners and losers in this. So they're acting like this is a landslide, where a citizen, a refugee, not even born in the United States, but I heard that he's taking his third. He started out in South Africa, then went to Canada, and came here as third choice. See, and we gave him a huge grant to build Tesla. And he became a multimillionaire because American taxpayers helped fund him. And now he wants to take over the whole damn government. And I don't think that people are going to sit back and let them. It just doesn't seem reasonable. Right now, I'm more worried about the football game this Sunday.
But are you concerned, though? As I said, you and Dr. King and so many others, John Lewis, fought for civil rights. That was really who you were, what you were about. And when you see civil rights investigations being halted, when you see a rollback on DEI, do you feel?
The civil rights investigations have been halted, but by whom? See, we almost, I don't know that anybody's investigating anybody around Atlanta on civil rights. See, we take it for granted because it works. We have 60% of our city has college degrees. That's because of the Hope Scholarship. And the Hope Scholarship is because Zell Miller, who's white, and me, who's black, agreed that we ought to put all of the Hope Scholarship, all of the lottery money ought to go into higher education and preschool. Now, this administration wants to do away with the Department of Education. Zell Miller and I saw, that was in 1990, we saw education as a pathway to progress in Atlanta and in Georgia. Georgia's progress in the last 20 years, 25 years, it's probably been great, and Atlanta's particularly, it's probably been greater than any state in the Union. And so what I see, what we're doing here is working. It's far from perfect. And we find that because we're doing successfully, we get more people coming here. We get Google suddenly built a building. Microsoft suddenly moved. IBM was already here with a suite of buildings. I mean, we're doing well.
Let's talk a little bit about Georgia politics.
There's nothing to say about Georgia politics right now because there's nobody that's made a commitment.
Well, we've had a few people who've hinted at running, including former Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. Have you spoken with anyone? Have you endorsed anyone behind the scenes?
I have not talked to anyone, and I don't think anyone has started through yet. I think that let's don't anticipate problems. You were trying to get me to look back on what's going on, and I'm reluctant to do that, but I'm also reluctant to ignore this and look forward.
Yeah.
I think let's hold what we got. Let's be patient. For me, this is football season.
Yeah. I know. We love football, but I'm here to talk to you about this stuff.
But I ain't interested in this stuff right now because it's irrelevant. They're shadow boxing. See, it's like the warm up before the fight. See, and I don't think anybody knows what they're doing. I think they're playing games with themselves. It's sort of an intellectual masturbation. And I just don't want to get involved, and I certainly don't want to worry. Now, I do pray, and I pray for everybody to come to their senses. I pray for President Trump, who's not balanced right now.
You also spoke recently at President Jimmy Carter's funeral up in Washington. You were there, and right in front of you were President Trump and every living president. What do you hope that they take from that message?
Well, what President Carter gave me to talk about was from the 4th chapter of Ephesians, and it starts off with be kind, be patient, be faithful, be forgiving as God is forgiving to you. And that's a very good message. I see a democracy in process. And the actors have acted. Now the reactors are coming together.
You and your foundation have been working, doing a lot of work in the community to make sure minority-owned businesses had a place and a seat at the table. Just talk about the legacy of that work. Are you continuing that work? How's your foundation continuing to work toward that goal?
No, it's not my foundation. We take that for granted. It's the city government of Atlanta. We did not start MARTA until MARTA agreed that 35%. And it was Sam Massell, the Jewish mayor, that made that agreement. He also lowered the fare from 55 cents to 15 cents for 10 years to make it fair for poor people, not just black poor people, poor people. When we built the MARTA line, people didn't trust us in Decatur. They said they just want to build a line to get white folks to the airport. So we built the east-west line first. But more interesting than that, which nobody knows and we've forgotten about, Bofale Jones of the Woodruff Foundation got Daddy King, Martin Luther King Sr., and Calvin Craig, the head of the Ku Klux Klan, to sit down together, and they became the co-chairs of the Economic Opportunity Atlanta. And so from the beginning, we had rich, poor, black, and white sitting at the same table. That's what makes Atlanta go.
And your foundation, though, has been a part of that.
Well, I was, yeah. I didn't have a foundation back then.
I know you're humble, but I want you to talk a little bit about the work that you did to make sure that we had some of those minority businesses having a seat at the table.
It certainly was my commitment, but it wasn't just my commitment. It's been the commitment of Atlanta as long as I've been here, and that's since 1961. And I came here, one of the first things I heard was a city too busy to hate. Now, we could hear that in Washington right now. because everybody's, I don't say they hate. I think everybody is insecure, overly ambitious, and in a hurry, and they don't know where to go. But again, I fall back on my preaching, wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he will strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. They that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get weary. They will walk and not faint. And I don't think I can do any better than that.
You also have a birthday coming up next month. You'll be 93 years old. And I think it's impressive that you continue to work and go at really a pace that I don't think we see many 92 or 93-year-olds go. What keeps Ambassador Young getting up, putting on this nice suit every day, and going at 93?
I have a sense of responsibility to this community. It's a city constantly working to improve itself. I'll never forget, for the Olympics, women planted 1 million trees in Atlanta, dogwood trees all over Atlanta. That is not light stuff. When I came here, none of these expressways were here. John Lewis and I went to Washington, and before we were in Congress, and we met a guy that we had campaigned for when he was running, and he happened to be head of the Transportation Committee, and he helped us get the money for these expressways.
Do you feel a greater sense of responsibility, though, now because John Lewis is gone, C.T. Vivian, Ralph David Abernathy, and you are the last of this great generation of Atlanta leaders?
Let me just say, don't you worry, because you can't get worried.
No, you're right. You're right.
I've been here a long time, and what goes around comes around. This is a very great democracy. And even Ray Charles could see that this was America the Beautiful, and he was blind.